I followed a 1940s bedtime routine, and it made me rethink my entire non-existent bedtime routine. In the 1940s, although on a backdrop of such hardship, taking pride in your personal appearance was held in very high regard, almost as highly as hygiene. Yes, even during an era of rationing, people were expected to keep on top of their hygiene, and soap was actually the number one gift in the 40s. After a day of work, as many women were taking on previously male-led jobs during this time, I would wind down with a bath, using soap to wash my hair, body and face. But I would only be allowed 5 inches of water per bath, which would be indicated by a dark line which I would draw around my tub in an effort to conserve fuel and coal for the war effort by limiting hot water use.
The most impressive thing about how people pulled together was the way that people never had more than 3 inches of bath water, and nobody could check on that. We were asked not to have more than 3 inches of hot water in our baths, and I remember having 4 inches once, and I confessed to a fellow student, and she was horrified. She said, "We won't win the war if you do things like that."
You'd also be lucky if you had the bath entirely to yourself, as this tended to be a family affair with children being bathed first. And for those without a bath, then a quick wash using a basin filled with lukewarm water would have been the norm. I have changed into my night clothes, which would typically be woolen, silk, cotton or flannel pyjamas or a night dress. And for men, it would be a vest and long trousers. And I've also put on a robe, as women typically wouldn't have been seen around the house without one. And of course, some house slippers. Tonight, I have also washed my hair, and the recommendation for hair washing would typically be once every 2 weeks or more often if needed. That would consist of 1 wash and 2 rinses, and for the second rinse, a drop of lemon juice or vinegar would help get the soap out. And to tell if the hair was clean, you were supposed to rub it and it should make a squeaky sound. Now I understand why my nan would often ask me if I was squeaky clean. Regular hair brushing was also recommended and was said to improve the hair's lustre by spreading out the natural oils, keeping it clean and glossy. Alongside your bath, women would also use cleansing cream to get rid of excess cosmetics and then use a cold cream to prevent skin roughness and chafing. Pond's cold cream was a particularly popular choice. But remember, no tugging around the eyes. This was absolutely not recommended. Be gentle around areas of sensitive skin. Women were also encouraged to use tweezers on their face for singular hairs and for their underarms and legs to use a safety razor, whilst being reassured that shaving more often does not make the hair grow back denser or faster. Vaseline was also a popular beauty product, and women would use it for everything from stopping your lips from going dry to setting your eyebrows and even as mascara. It was also recommended to give your nails a manicure weekly to keep the war-working hands looking fresh. This would include filing your nails to an acceptable length and removing nail polish for short periods to prevent the fingernails cracking. You could also add a clear polish to keep the nails sparkling. Women would then tend to use overnight rollers, and a top tip was to only dry the top of your hair and leave the ends damp, as your hair is more elastic when damp, and hopefully that would produce a better curl. And before I get the comments that hairdryers weren't available in the 1940s, they were, and were often made from materials like Bakelite and were sometimes sold with vanity cases. When it comes to rollers, I'm using foam rollers, which are allegedly more comfortable to sleep in, but I would beg to differ. And I'm pulling my hair away from my head, placing the roller at the tip of my hair and then rolling it back all the way to my scalp. This will ensure that the curl starts higher up on your head so that you don't just get flat hair and then curls. I mean, nobody wants that. You know how they say, go to bed ugly, wake up beautiful? Well, it was still the case in the 1940s. I'm then covering my rollers with a headscarf, and ideally silk is best to prevent the hair from frizzing. Now that we are clean, fresh and ready for bed, it was time to wind down. For many families, this would include sitting around the wireless radio and tuning in to BBC's light entertainment shows or the evening news broadcast. Children would then be sent to bed first, perhaps with a Wind in the Willows bedtime story right before they went to sleep.
In Ireland and Western Scotland, the showers may be heavy at times and will tend to become more prolonged towards evening.
The bedroom itself would be simple, and although electric lighting was common, some may use oil lamps and candles, particularly during World War II. The bedding would tend to be a cotton sheet and then a heavier woolen blanket for warmth during the colder months, as central heating wasn't as common. Before I go to sleep, I've brought my knitting to bed with me, and I also settled in for a spot of reading. If you did share a home with others, you would then say goodnight to family members and perhaps share a prayer. The bedtime routine of this era was a much more thorough and communal ritual than I'm used to, centred around rest and basic comforts and reflecting a time before the digital age when evenings were quieter, slower, and focused on family connections. And that's something that I find really interesting and is likely a huge reason why many of us struggle to go to sleep. Mobile phones and televisions. There weren't any, and with fewer distractions, the emphasis was on comfort and quiet. People would actually settle in for a more peaceful and slower transition to sleep, which probably meant that they got a better night's sleep. And that was the focus, getting a good night's rest to prepare for the busy day ahead. Then it was time for at least 8 hours of sleep, which was the recommendation, as good health was seen as the foundation of your appearance, something that I will definitely be taking note of after a long day's work.